In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a custom block that will draw a square. So the first thing I'm going to do, just for my purposes, because the blocks are pretty small, is to zoom my screen in. And this is something you can do if you ever have trouble seeing the blocks, but you may not need to. Okay, so I'm going to go into More Blocks, and then under More Blocks, there's a button that says Make a Block. So I'm going to click that. It's pretty plain. I can start typing here, and what I'm going to type right now is draw a square. So we always want to give some text. Oops. There. We always want to give some text that describes what our block is going to do, just like all of the other blocks. Motion, there's a, go to or a move or whatever. So there's always words that say what's happening. And we can also add inputs, just like this go-to block up here has a kind of a round input. That's for numbers. So I'm going to add a number input. And then it gives me a default name for that input. And I'm going to go ahead and type something that makes sense for me. So the only thing that I would want to change about my square is its size. I'm not going to change the number of sides. That's always 4. I'm not going to change the angle, that's always 90 degrees, but for a square, I may want a larger or smaller square. So I'm going to go ahead and say that my input here is size, or you could say length. Actually, I'll say length, because size and sides sound a lot alike. Okay, so I have this is going to be a variable that we can use inside of our code, which I'll show you a little bit later. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and just say OK. And then it gives me this purple block where I am actually defining the code that will run when I click this draw a square block. So underneath this block, I know that I need a repeat block. And because it's a square and has 4 sides, the repeat is 4. And the repeat is always the number of sides. And then inside the repeat block, I need 2 motion blocks. I need a move, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I also need a turn. I always choose this left-hand turn. It is kind of nice because the sprite starts out drawing to the right, so that then the other sides of the sprite, or the other sides of the shape, however many there might be, are drawn on a base and up, instead of if you use this block, which is fine, you'll get a shape that starts at the top and then draws down and around. So I just prefer this left-hand turn. And because it's a square, I know it's always going to be 90 degrees. Now you may be wondering, well, what about the move? We don't always want 10 steps. Maybe we want 50 steps. Maybe we want 100 steps. Like, we're going to change that. Well, that's where this length variable comes in. I can just click and drag that length variable and see how it highlights that little space there. I can drop it right in there, and that is the definition for my square. Okay, so let's talk about how to use the draw a square block. So I've cleared my screen. I'm going to drag out my draw a square block. I'm going to get my pen down and pen up, which those are good blocks to be in the habit of using so that you're not drawing when you don't want to be. Right now, draw a square size 1 is going to be a very small square. So it kind of twirled around, and you can see my square is so tiny. So 1 is probably not a good choice. Let's try 100. There we go. There's a size 100 square. I could do 20. And there's a size 20 square hiding behind the soccer ball. So this input, it's going kind of inside this block, inside to the code inside. The input of 20 is the same as this length variable. So it's like the length variable refers to this 20, and it kind of pulls through wherever you use length. It's going to look at whatever you have typed here and use that number. So it's moving right now 20 steps. And if I change this number to 100, now my length is referring to 100, so this number will be 100. And that's what gives us the different sizes of squares as we use this block. So that's the basics of custom blocks, and we'll do more with them in the next activity.